Shabbat Shalom. For this is a day that the Most High has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. We enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. We bless our King by saying, Barku et Yahweh. Barku et Yahweh hamevarak. Baruch atah Yahweh hamevarak le elam fayed. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech ha'alam. Asher bekar benu makol hamanyim wenatan lanu haTorah. Baruch atah Yahweh notan haTorah. To the Elohim of our ancestors Abraham, Yitzhak, and Israel. To our King, our deliverer, our provider, our healer, our sustainer, and our Elohim, do we come before you today, Master, asking you to forgive us of our sins, cleanse us of unrighteousness, that our prayers be not hindered this morning. Thank you, O King, for your mercies that you have renewed upon us daily. Thank you, O King, for life, health, and strength, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We thank you, O King, for those that are gathered here today on your set-apart day. For you made the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day you rested. And you said that we shall also rest, O King, and them that honor that day shall be in a covenant contract with you. So your faithful few are here today, Master, but there may be some that could not gather with us this morning. The distance may have been too far. They may not be feeling well in their bodies or unforeseen circumstances, but we ask that you would look upon them also and them that are online with us today, that you would count them as part of this assembly. We ask, O King, that you would look upon those that are all assembling today across this world in your name and in your name only. For we know that your name is powerful and your word has created everything, O King, and there was nothing created that your word did not create. And your word shall not go out empty, and it shall not return unto you void, but shall accomplish all that you send it to do. So we ask this day, O King, that you would show favor upon us here, that you show favor upon us collectively as Israel, for we are thy servant and your people and the sheep of your pasture, and you would show us favor individually, O King. For you know all of our needs, you know our desires, Master. We ask that you would continue to strengthen us, O King, that you would build us up, Master, that we may be strong in thy word, Master, and that we may be faithful to you, and that you would build up the fear of you, Master, that we may not sin against thee. For we know that the whole duty of man is to fear thee and keep thy commandments, O King. So we are out this morning, O Master, in obedience to thy word. We thank you, O King, that you have kept our children, that you have kept us, that you have given us gainful employment, Master, that you have provided for us that we may live and that we may walk and have our being. And we thank you this day, Master. We ask that you would continue to go with us and guide us in thy word, Master, until we meet here again. This is our prayer.
We'll be reading today from Psalms, the Helium, chapter 91 and chapters 92. And as we read 91, I want you to take in heart and think about the words that the psalmist is offering us in this particular writing. Let us read together. You who live in the shelter of Elyon, who spread your nights in the shadow of Shaddai, who say to Yahweh, my refuge, my fortress, my El, in whom I trust. He will rescue you from the trap of the hunter, from the plague of calamities. He will cover you with his pinions. Under his wings you will find refuge. His truth is a shield and protection. You will not fear the terrors of night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the plague that roams in the dark, or the scourge that wreaks havoc at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right side, but it won't come near you. Only keep your eyes open, and you will see how the wicked are punished. For you have made Yahweh the Most High, who is my refuge, my dwelling place. No disaster will happen to you. No calamity will come near your tent, for he will order his angels to care for you and guard you wherever you go. They will carry you in their hands so that you won't trip on a stone. You will tread down lions and snakes. Your young lions and serpents you will trample underfoot. Because he loves me, I rescue him. Because he knows my name, I will protect him. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him when he is in trouble. I will extricate him and bring him honor. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation. The Psalm, a song of Shabbat. It is good to give thanks to Yahweh and sing praises to your name, Elyon, to tell the morning about your grace and at night about your faithfulness, to the music of a 10-string harp and lure with melody sounding on a lyre. For Yahweh, what you do makes me happy. I take joy in what your hands have made. How great are your deeds, Yahweh. How very deep your thoughts. Stupid people can't know. Fools don't understand that when the wicked sprout like grass and all who do evil prosper, it is so that they can be eternally destroyed, while you, Yahweh, are exalted forever. For your enemies, Yahweh, your enemies will perish. All evildoers will be scattered. But you have given me the strength of a wild bull. You anoint me with fresh oil, olive oil. My eyes are gazed with pleasure on my enemies' ruin. My ears have delighted in the fall of my foes. The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Yahweh. They will flourish in the courtyards of Yah. Even in old age, they will be vigorous, still full of sap, still bearing fruit, proclaiming that Yahweh is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong. You may be seated. I want to thank the Mores for holding everything down last week. I appreciate you, Morey, Beckham, and Trey Beverly, for holding the fort down while we were in Palm Spring visiting with our congregation down there. Good to be back home, no? And it's good to see you. I'm glad that you have taken the time to come out and fellowship with us on today. Those of you who are watching by stream, if you can see the QR code, we'd be so appreciative if you would make your contribution if what you're hearing and what you're gaining from our stream each Shabbat is benefiting you. We certainly appreciate your offering of gift to help us to continue in what we are doing here for you here at First Tabernacle Fellowship. I'm going to get right into today's lesson. It's quite a in-depth one. It's interesting that as we study the prophet Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel is a very unique prophet in that he covers a historical gamut of things that are germane to Hebrew Israel, and he forecasts into the future of Hebrew Israel. So as we read this particular chapter 17 is full of allegories and metaphors associated with planning and allegories associated with the children of Israel. The central players are King Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, King Zedekiah, as well as the children of Israel. Almost every line of text in this particular chapter requires our ability to understand some history, and not only understand some history, but also understand the metaphors and allegories that are being made that foreshadow that history and the future. We come out of chapter 16 understanding the origin and the beginning of the birth of this wonderful nation of Hebrew Israel, and how the Most High describes her beauty, and how he has taken her in to be his wife, and how she has cast her beauty to the side and become a very whorous nation of people, and how he refers to her in chapter 16. Chapter number 17 is almost every line of text requires some explanation. Otherwise, you won't understand what the text is talking about, and you will formulate an idea of something that it's not talking about. So we're going to try to unravel that for you today as we work through this particular chapter. The things in chapter 17 are also going to take us into the books of the Kings, because a lot of the subject matter that he's talking about comes out of the Kings, the first Kings, and comes out of second Kings in reference to the kings of Judah that are associated with the Babylonian captivity. He opens with these words: "The word of Yahweh came to me, human being, propound this riddle. Tell the house of Israel this allegory. 3. Say that Yahweh Elohim says, a big eagle having great wings and long pinions full of varicolored feathers came to the Lebanon and took over the top cedar. He cropped off the topmost of its young twigs." All of that language there is associated with things that are historical to Israel. So let's back it up. A big eagle came with great wings is a simile for Nebuchadnezzar, the world conqueror. The long pinions full of variegated colors came to the Lebanon. The Lebanon, this is a reference to the land of Israel, which happens to be higher than other lands, and took over the top cedar. The cedar are the highest trees in Lebanon and stands for Jerusalem, and the Mount Zion, the royal residence of Israel. He talks about he cropped off the topmost of its young twigs. When we hear things like that, we know that it has to do with something that has to do with the children of Israel. The fact that the text uses young twigs allows us to know that the reference is to the children of Israel, the royal household, which is a reference to Jehoiakim, who was exiled at the age of 18. So now we're going to look at 2 Kings chapter number 24 and verse 8, which says, Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign and ruled in Jerusalem for 3 months. His mother's name was Nakashukata, the daughter of Elnathan from Jerusalem. He did what was evil from Yahweh's perspective, following the example of everything his father had done. It was then that the officers of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, marched on Jerusalem, laid its siege in the city. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel himself, went to the city while it was under siege, And Jehoiakim, the king of Yehudah, went out to meet the king of Babel, he and his mother and his servants, princes, officers, and the king of Babel took him captive in the 8th year of his reign. So he says it topped off in verse 4, he cropped off the tops of the young twigs, carried them to a land of traders, and set them down in a city of merchants. The city of merchants happens to be the city which is called Babylon. Verse number 5. The verbiage says, he took also some of the seed. So now when he's talking about he's taking some of the seed is going to reference the children that are associated with the royal household. To get to understand this, we're going to have to look back at 2 Kings chapter 24, verses 13 through 20. And in 2 Kings, it says, Nebuchadnezzar carried away from there all the treasures in the house of Yahweh and the treasures in the royal palace. He cut into pieces all the articles of gold which Shlomo the king of Israel had made in the temple of Yahweh, as Yahweh had said would happen. He carried all of Jerusalem away captive, all the princes, all the bravest soldiers, 10,000 captives, also the craftsmen, the metal workers. No one was left but the poorest people of the land. Jehoiakim he carried off to Babel. Likewise, he carried off the king's mother, the king's wives, his officers, the main leaders of the land, Jerusalem into captivity to Babel. All the strong men, 7,000 of them, as well as 1,000 craftsmen and metalsmiths, all of them strong and trained for war. The king of Babel brought captive to Babel. The king of Babel made Mattanyan, Joachim's father, brother, king in place of Joachim, and changed his name to Zedekiah. So now we have a name change in relationship to this one person. So when you hear Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim's name is changed to Zedekiah. So we're going to hear a lot about this king that's called King Zedekiah, but it's the same person. He just has a name change. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to rule, and he ruled for 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah. So now we know that Zedekiah is related here to Jeremiah. Jeremiah also has a lot of things to do with what Ezekiel is talking about. They're kind of connected. They're contemporaries in this exile. The daughter of Jeremiah from Lebanon. Zedekiah did what was evil from the perspective of Yahweh, following example of everything Jehoiakim had done. And it was because of Yahweh's anger that all these things happened to Jerusalem and Yehudah until he had thrown them out of his presence. Zedekiah rebelled. Now this piece right here is something that's very interesting, because what we're going to hear down further in the text, the Most High is going to talk about this king who has broken his oath with him, with the Most High. And that's because what has happened is that Zedekiah has made a covenant with the king of Babel. While he's made this covenant with the king of Babel, he also finds himself in trouble, and the oath is broken, as we will see, as he goes into or tries to get the king of Egypt to come to his aid to help him against the king of Babel. We'll see all of that in the text. The question is asked about this king in this situation. It says he rebelled against the king of Babel in the land and planted it in a fertile soil placing it where there was abundant water, as one would a willow. It grew to become a fruitful vine sprawling over the ground. Its branches turned up toward him, and its roots were under him. Thus it became a vine, sprouting branches and putting forth shoots. This verse speaks about Zedekiah's prosperity before rebelling against Nebuchadnezzar. So in the rule of Judah, and we have to remember, what we have to understand here is that when we talk about the Babylonian captivity, Nebuchadnezzar didn't just come in to Jerusalem and just sweep up everything and take it out. There is a period of time that's going on in which that Nebuchadnezzar has come into Jerusalem and taken over the people, allowed them to carry on and do what they were doing, but under his rule, under his auspices. So this is what's going on here with Zedekiah. So now we're going to hear what I just said about Egypt. Verse number 7 says, "There was another big eagle with great wings and many feathers, and the vine bent its roots toward him and put forth its branches toward him, so that he might water it more than in the bed where it was planted." This verse is a reference to the fact that Zedekiah went to Egypt to gain help against the king of Babel. So all of this, when it talks about another big eagle, it's another big strong nation that Israel is entwined with. It had been planted in good soil near plenty of water. This is, when he talks about plenty of water, this is a metaphor for Jerusalem, so that it would produce branches, bear fruit, become a noble vine in the land before being carried off captive by Babylon. So now the idea that Nebuchadnezzar has is he understands that for Israel to continue to thrive, it was going to be necessary for him to have the leaders of Israel over Israel. But his idea was that Israel would be brought low. So now we have this going on. Verse 9, "Say that Yahweh Elohim asks, will it succeed? Won't he pull it up by the roots and cut it off?" This is a reference to King Nebuchadnezzar uprooting the kingdom of King Zedekiah, and cutting off its fruit is a reference to the king's children. What we find when we read the text and we go over into 2 Kings, well, let's read it here. Let me read it all. Verse 9 goes on, says, "To Yahweh Elohim asked, will it succeed? Won't he pull up it by its roots and cut off its fruit, so that it dries up and all its sprouting leaves wither? There will be no great power and few people there when it is plucked up by its roots." So when we listen to the verbiage that's being used there, we have these words of fruit being cut off, all the sprouts withering. With all the sons of Zedekiah dead, all of the memory of them will cease, and the kingdom will revert to Joachim and his sons. 2 Kings chapter 25 verse 7 says, "They slaughtered his sons before his eyes, and then they put out Zedekiah's side, bound him in chains, and carried him off to Babel." So we can hear all of these kind of nuances that are going on in the text that we're trying to understand what the language is and what it's associated with. We have to break all that down so we understand what's taking place. There will be no great power and few people there when it is plucked up by the roots. This is a reference to Egypt not being able to come to Zedekiah's defense. Now, as we continue to read through Ezekiel, we're going to hear the Most High talking about Israel's always running down to Egypt to try to get Egypt to help them against this king of the north, Babylon, and nothing is ever going to work out for them in that arrangement. We'll see that as we continue to read down through Ezekiel. Verse number 10, the question is, will it thrive just because it was planted? Now we've got the planting of this king, which is Zedekiah, in Jerusalem, meaning the planting means that Nebuchadnezzar has allowed this king to flourish in Jerusalem. Will it prosper? Will it have power? Will it thrive just because it was planted? Won't it wither altogether when the east wind strikes it? Yes, it will wither right there in the beds where it was growing. All of this verbiage is about the vine which Zedekiah was given, who has given rulership over Yehuda, in the land of Nebuchadnezzar. The rulership is of this king would not survive in the land. You can't survive. You cannot survive and be fruitful when you have other outside parties coming in and taking authority over you. You have to remember something, that the Most High has promised Hebrew Israel the things that were going to happen to them because of their unfaithfulness to him. We've already read in 16 all the language that he uses toward Israel's situation and relationship with him. So now we've got this king of the north, Nebuchadnezzar, who is in control and ruling and governing the land of Israel, and particularly Jerusalem. So the question is, will Zedekiah's kingship, will it survive in the land? Well, we already know that from kings, he's going to be taken, he's going to be killed, his children are going to be killed, and his eyes are going to be plucked out. Kings has already told us that. Verse number 11, the word of Yahweh came to me, say to the rebellious house, which is Israel, don't you know what these things mean? Tell them here, the king of Babel came to Jerusalem, took its king, princes, and brought them to himself in Babel. Then he took a member of the royal family and made a covenant with him, putting him under oath. He removed the powerful leaders of the land, so this kingdom of his would stay humble and not develop aspirations on its own. Rather, it would keep its covenant and live accordingly. So now we understand by the language that Zedekiah has made a covenant with the king Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? The reason why this has happened is we have to remember how vast Hebrew Israel is and how they're seen amongst the nations. Even though they're going into servitude because of their neglecting the Torah and worshiping other things and doing abominable things in the temple, Nebuchadnezzar still has some sense of trepidation and fear of this nation. So he's made a covenant with the king. Now, put a pin in that. That covenant is going to come up again because we're going to get down in text, and the Most High is going to talk about this king breaking his covenant. When I get there, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I'm going to repeat it here and then we'll get to it. The reason why the Most High is going to call it and refer to it the breaking of his covenant or oath is because he made the oath with Nebuchadnezzar using the name of the Most High. We talked about this week in our podcast, Making Vows and Oaths. When you and I invoke the name of the Most High in any vow or oath, that vow or oath is binding to us because we have brought the Most High into the conversation. See what I'm saying? It's not, and I talked about this. A lot of times we get in situations and we say, Most High, if you will do A, B, or C, then I won't do A, B, or C, or so on and so forth and so forth. You've invoked him into that conversation. Now that you've invoked him into that conversation, you're bound by what you have said. This is what's going on here with Zedekiah and Nebuchadnezzar. Now, verse 15 says, but this man rebelled and sent representatives to Egypt in order to obtain horses and a sizable army. Can he succeed? Can someone who does such things escape punishment? Can he break the covenant and still escape the punishment? So now I've explained to you what's taken place. And so now the Most High is asking the question, can this man rebel? And he rebelled and sent representatives from Egypt in order to obtain horses and an army so that he could rebel against Nebuchadnezzar, who was taking him captive, or taking the nation captive. Verse 16, as I live, says Yahweh. Now here's what I explained to you earlier. In the place where the king who gave him his throne lives, whose oath he despised and whose covenant he broke, there with him in Babel, I swear that he will die. King Zedekiah died at the hands of the king of Babel. And that's because he broke his oath covenant that he made with Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 17, Pharaoh with his mighty army and numerous troops will give him no help in the war. When they raise siege works and build fortified towers to destroy many people, because he despised the oath by breaking the covenant to which he had sworn allegiance, having done all these things, he will not escape punishment. Therefore Yahweh says, as I live, I swear that it was my oath that he has despised, and my covenant he has broken, and I will bring this on his own head. He made an oath. He swore a covenant with Nebuchadnezzar using the name of the Most High. Therewith the Most High is saying, you didn't just break the oath, you broke an oath that you made in my name with me. I will spread my net over him, and he will be caught in my snare. I will bring him to Babel and bring him to judgment there for breaking faith with me. The things discussed here take us back to chapter 12, verse 13. The scenario is about Zedekiah in his dealings with king of Babel. He swore an oath, invoked the name of the Most High, so that from the previous verses, the Most High speaks of his faith. The elite troops, verse 21, troops among his forces will die by the sword, and those who survive will be scattered to every wind. Then you will know that I, Yahweh, said it. Yahweh Elohim says, from the top of this tall cedar, from its highest branch, I will take a shoot and plant it myself on a high and prominent mountain. Now, once again, we have what? Metaphorical, allegorical language. This speaks about the future of Hebrew Israel, the king of Zerubbabel, when Hebrew Israel will return to their land after the Babylonian exile. So we're listening to things in chapter 17 that cover a lot of historical events that have taken place with Israel and these kings and with the king of Babel. I'm going to be short today. We're going to go home early. So now, verse 23. I will plant it on the highest mountain in Israel. Well, what's the highest mountain of Israel? It would be in Jerusalem, where it will put out branches and bear fruit. This refers to Zerubbabel and become a noble cedar, meaning a noble ruler. Now what we've heard earlier about the events that are taking place between Nebuchadnezzar and Zedekiah and the vows that he's made. We hear about the destruction of Zedekiah, his sons being killed, his eyes being plucked out, him being carried off because of this vow that he made that he didn't keep. But also, we're also hearing about the evil that he did, which was worse than his own father had done. The Most High is going to hold that over him. The prophets always get to a place where they start talking about things that are going to take place afterwards. So now we have the insertion of King Zerubbabel, who happens to be a good king in Judah. Matter of fact, all of these kings that we're talking about here are kings of Judah. So he refers to us, the language says that the elite troops, going back to verse 21, among his forces will die by the sword, and those who survive will be scattered to every wind. Then you will know that I, Yahweh, said it. Yahweh Elohim says, from the top of this tall cedar, okay, from its highest branch, I will take a shoot and plant it myself on a high and prominent mountain. Now he's talking about something that's going to take place after the exile, the Babylonian exile is over. So now when you read in the Kings and you read about King Zerubbabel, you'll find things about King Zerubbabel in which that he begins to bring the nation of Israel back together under the teachings and the mitzvot of the Most High and honoring the Most High, which is a reason why it says where it will put out branches, bear fruit, and become a noble cedar, meaning that Zerubbabel is going to be a noble ruler. Under it will live all kinds of birds. Winged creatures of every description will live there in the shadow of the branches. This metaphor is a reference to all the people who will live and flourish during Zerubbabel's reign. Then all the trees is a reference to the people of the field will know that I, Yahweh, bring down the tall trees. The tall trees are all of those nations. We're talking about Babylon, we're talking about Assyria, we're talking about Sennacherib and all of those kings who did things in offense to Israel because of Israel's reluctance to follow the ways of the Most High, and the Most High showing anger to them. These nations now, he says, I will bring them down. They were the tall trees, the nations that ruled Hebrew Israel during their time in exile, and raised up the low tree. All of these nations wanted Israel to be low and be unaffected under their rulership. So he says, I'm going to bring down the tall ones. I'm going to raise up the one that's low. Wither the green tree and make the withered tree bear fruit. So now Israel in its state is not being seen as a flourishing tree. But now after this exile, they get back in the land, such as we will do in the days coming ahead. We'll be back in the land. We won't be low anymore. We'll be prosperous. We'll be flourishing. Israel will be flourished and bear fruit. Yahweh says, I have spoken and I will do it. So we have chapter 17. Thought it was going to take me longer to get through that. So we have chapter 17 showing us the historical events that have taken place with Hebrew Israel and the king of Babel, we find that the Most High's anger with Israel has caused these kings of Israel, these under the Judaic kings under Israel, who have gone astray, led Israel astray, and found themselves in a compromising situation. One of the things that I want to admonish us today about is this. Oaths and vows are critical things. When we make a promise to do something, we should do our best to keep that promise. Circumstances happen in which that we're unable sometimes to do that. But when we make a promise in the voice of a vow or an oath, okay, now I'm making a declaration that's binding to me, and I have to think about that. And most of all, as I mentioned earlier, when we make oaths and vows based on our circumstances and our conditions, where we bring the Most High into that conversation, and sometimes things get pretty tight, don't they? And we say, yeah, if you do this, if you deliver me from this, I won't do that anymore. Huh? Huh? You ever been there? If you open this door for me, I won't do that anymore. Huh? You've brought the Most High in the conversation. Now here's our problem. I'm going to tell you what our problem is, okay? I want you to think about this. We forget that we've made such a vow. And the circumstance may occur again, and we find ourselves between a rock and a hard spot, and we Most High, if you deliver me one more time, one more again, I won't do that again. We forget. The Most High hasn't forgotten. Okay? But here's what I want to say to you, okay? The interesting fact about the Most High is that the Most High shows us his what? His grace. And he shows us his mercy. And he realizes that we are a people who are fractured in thought, so that there are things that we just simply forget. I want you to see Israel the way the Most High sees Israel. We continue to look at the way Israel treats the Most High, has treated the Most High, as I talked about in chapter 16 a couple weeks ago. I mean, the Most High saw Israel as in a bad way. No wife in her right mind wants to hear her husband call her a whore. Huh? Are those fighting words? I mean, even if she's acting like one, no wife wants to hear her husband call her a whore. And particularly one who is a whore but not acting like one. Meaning, as 16 said, instead of them soliciting you, you're soliciting them. And instead of getting paid, you're paying them. So, I mean, you have to see where we are as a people and understand why this exile is so hard for us. Ezekiel's going to bring us all the way through to where we find ourselves out of the exile and in the temple as we begin to walk down and close out this particular text. I'm going to go back. I'm going to end it there, but I want to go back to Psalms for a minute, if you'll allow me to do so. And then I'm going to be through. Not long today. Pray for your Maury. I got a lot of things on my mind. Let's go back to 91 and let's look at something, okay? In light of what we've just read in Ezekiel, Israel was outside of the protection of the Most High. Okay? And I told you as we read 91, I wanted you to think about something. You who live in the shelter of Elyon, who spend your nights in the shadow of Shaddai, who say to Yahweh, my refuge, my fortress, my El, in whom I trust. You and I live in the shelter and the shadow of the Most High. What will he do? He will rescue you from the trap of the hunter and the plague of calamities. So now he's telling you that whatever situation that you find yourself in and those who are trying to destroy you, he will rescue from them. He will cover you with his pinions. Now, pinions are, you see pinions on eagles. So he's saying, I'm going to cover you with those. If he's covering me with his pinions, that's a very strong. You ever see eagles in action? I mean, an eagle will sweep down and pick up a small dog. As a hawk will do the same thing. Those pinions are grabbing. The Most High says, I have you protected. Under his wings and the refuge, his truth. Now this is the part that I want you to hear. What does his truth? Everybody say his truth. His truth is a shield and protection. The Most High's truth is a shield and protection. The Most High's truth is a shield and protection. Can I ask you a question? Do you think that in this environment that we're living in, we need a shield and protection? Do you think so? Do you think so? Do you think our children do? So now, while other people are in fear and terror, where are you? He says, you will not fear the terrors of night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the plague that roams in the dark, or the scourge that wreaks havoc at noon. We came through a pandemic. And the majority of you who are in this room right now never got touched by it. My people, family members, thought that because of my age that I would be vulnerable to it. You will not fear the terrors of night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the plague that roams in the dark. Um, that plague, verse 7, that plague, 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but what? What? It won't come near you. Only keep your eyes open. Only keep your eyes open. What will you see? You will see the destruction of the wicked. For you have made Yahweh, now come on with me, read it with me, you have made Yahweh, the Most High, who is my refuge, your dwelling place. The Most High is your dwelling place. Therefore, what is it? No disaster will happen to you. No calamity will come near you, for he will order his angels to care for you and guard you wherever you go. Come on, class. Come on, class. Come on, class. Come on, class. Do you see the difference? There's a difference between you and them. The difference between you and them is he will order his angels to care for you and guard you wherever you go. What will they do? They will carry you in their hands so that you won't trip on a stone. That means so that you won't be overtaken by things. What happens when you trip on a stone? You trip on a stone because you didn't see it. I'm not going to let you do that. You will tread down lions and snakes, young lions, serpents, and will trample. Because what? Verse 14, what? Because he loves me. Say, he loves me. I will rescue you. Because you know my name, I will protect you. People who don't know his name are not being protected. He's not going to violate his word. They may seem protected, but in essence, when trouble comes, they are not protected. He will call on me. So put it this way, say it this way. I will call on Yahweh, and he will answer him. I will be with him when he is in trouble. The Most High will be with you when you're in trouble. He will extricate him and bring him honor. I will satisfy. Come on now. Come on. I will satisfy you with long life and show you my salvation. So now, this saved thing. Saved and salvation go hand in hand. Everybody wants to be saved from something that doesn't exist. But the Most High says, I am going to save you. From what? From all of these things that I've indicated there that I brought to you. And with that, class, your more is through for today. We'll pick up chapter 18 when I come back in the month of August. So if we can put up my clothes. Let us read. Let us stand and let us read. Yevarekaka, Yahweh Ishmereka, Ya'er Yahweh Panai Baleka Vekanuka, Yasa Yahweh Panai Baleka, Vayasham Laka Shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine you and show you his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face toward you and give you peace. Shalom.